look through them. They've got a summary of the year's activities and all the stuff that happened at the church here over the last several months. All right, let's get started. My name is Brady Cremines. I'm an elder here at MCC. Welcome to our annual congregational meeting. Have a few updates for you about stuff going on at the church. We'll talk about budget. We'll talk about ballots and what there is to vote on today. And it'll be pretty short and sweet. Not too strenuous this year, I don't think. I mentioned grabbing an annual report. Please do take a few minutes today or this week to read through that, as it's both informational and a way of remembering and celebrating all the wonderful ministry impact that MCC has had this year. You'll notice on page 1 or 2, let's see, 1, right inside the front cover, the list of the leads and the co-leads for our ministry teams. I'd like to thank those volunteers who have stepped up to serve this church in those important ways. These people spend hours and hours of their time through the weeks and months of the year for MCC and the kingdom. They're great examples of what it looks like to be a member of a church, a body dedicated to doing the Lord's work. So thank you to our ministry team leads for using your time and your talents in this way. We praise God for 20 baptisms and membership transfers in 2021. All of the work that goes on here is about leading people to a closer relationship with Christ, and baptisms and transfers are one way of measuring the fruits of that labor. We are a small church in a small town, but the impact this place has for the kingdom is not small. We serve a big God who does big things even in small places. So make sure to read through the rest of the packet. It's a valuable summary of the past 12 months here at the church. All right. Special topics. Next slide, please. Okay. 1 year ago, Rick Nystrom and I led this meeting. I gave an update on our staffing situation. In short, it was not going very well. I noted that we had a high number of staff turnover, and that we were in the process of making efforts to hire the right people for the right jobs going forward, to reduce that turnover and to provide more stability to our leadership structure and our ministry areas. I'm happy to update you today with a much brighter outlook on our staffing. Just before last year's meeting, we had hired Shar Dial. She's done a wonderful job getting acclimated to her role and serving the rest of the staff and the congregation well. Yeah. Shar put together the packets and the ballots and all this stuff that you have today. She does a great job with that. In the fall, we brought on Jim Webster as an associate minister. Jim's doing a great job too. Yep. And just a few weeks ago, we hired Lindsay Michael as worship director. After that area was led wholly by volunteers for several months. Lindsay's doing a great job. I was just telling Mom, I love hearing the piano every Sunday. She's just great at that. So that's a wonderful blessing. Drew Barbie remains on as youth minister, though Drew is planning to graduate from LCU in May, so it's possible a potential change would come to that area as Drew evaluates his next chapter in life and as we assess those programs as well. No organization is ever perfect, of course, but the elders believe our staffing situation is much stronger now than it has been at any point in the last couple of years, so we're very pleased with that. We're thankful that God has brought us these faithful servants who have answered his call on their lives to serve this place and these people. I do have one specific announcement in the area of staffing. When Rusty was hired in the fall of 2015, his terms of employment included that he take a several-week sabbatical once he had been here for 5 years. We are now in year 7, and we owe him an extended time away. So he has proposed, and the elders have agreed to, a sabbatical for Rusty lasting about 6 weeks. I think from like May 22nd through the end of June, Rusty will be away. A sabbatical just means an extended period away from work, and it is common for those in church ministry. It will be a time of physical and mental rest as well as spiritual refreshment. Rusty has some family trips planned during that time, as well as some time away by himself in a spiritual retreat. And I think he and Amanda are going on a marriage retreat during that time as well. What this means for us is that Jim and some guest preachers will fill in for the Sundays that Rusty is gone. We're doing this over the summer months because things are a little quieter here in terms of activities and events. Here's the key to this sabbatical. We all play a big role in making this successful for Rusty. Part of the point is to get away and pay as little attention as possible to the normal stresses and responsibilities of ministering the church. So we all need to commit to leaving him alone as much as possible during that time. Jim will be the point man for all the normal ministry stuff that happens around the church, and we're going to do our best to limit our church-related communication with Rusty to if someone from the church passes away. So even the elders will be limiting our communication with him as much as we can as well. Otherwise, we want him to go and rest and recharge, and he'll come back in July, re-energized and ready to lead MCC again. So that's the plan. We'll provide more details as those dates get closer, but we did want to make you aware of that so you weren't wondering what was going on come summertime. It's a totally planned thing, and we're happy for him to go do that. A brief update on renovations. We spoke in last year's meeting about the plans to finish out the All In campaign. While our congregation responded very generously with funds when the campaign was launched a few years ago, it has taken us longer than we anticipated to finish the projects. Yeah. Sorry. This better? All right. Do I need to start over? You may have only missed. Rusty's going to be gone for a while, but it's not a bad kind of gone. It's a good kind of gone. Okay. A year ago, we had 2 remaining projects. The sanctuary renovation, which you can see is nearing completion, and the kitchen renovation. All that remains to be done in here is some kind of accent wall on the back wall. That's being planned for. Materials maybe even have been delivered. I'm not sure on that. And then sound paneling to improve the acoustics. Those are the 2 remaining projects to finish the sanctuary remodel. I think it looks great, and I really enjoy what they've done in here. The kitchen renovation was paused for months due to the apparent impossibility of getting the wood we needed from Canada. Those materials finally did arrive a few weeks ago, and we hope to start that renovation this summer, which I realize is exactly what I said 1 year ago in this meeting, that we hope to start that renovation last summer. We have the materials now, so hopefully actually this summer that project can be done. The goal is to have it done before fall programming starts so we can begin using the kitchen again. We did decide to use some all-in funds to carpet and paint the upstairs area, the new upstairs area above the fellowship hall, so that our kids can use that for Awana, that we can still use the fellowship hall for other activities at the same time. That was done shortly before Christmas. So we will finish the sanctuary in the next couple of weeks, few weeks, I believe, something like that. Hopefully the kitchen this summer, and then that should be that for a while in terms of major facilities upgrades. Thank you for putting up with the uncertainty and changes in plans for the past couple of years. I really like the new look, and I'm excited to get the most out of the building going forward. Okay, let's take a look at the budget. Yes, thank you. A year ago, we communicated here that due to a couple of fairly large estate gifts, a reduction in activities and events due to COVID, and low personnel costs due to our staff turnover, we had several $100,000 worth of surplus funds, and that we had committed $168,000 of that amount to missions giving above and beyond our normal giving amount. In the first few months of 2021, we did disperse that amount. Wanted to share. Some of you are aware of Mark Fischel and his relationship with Paulo in Cambodia. Mark wanted us to know he used a portion of the extra funds that we gave him to help fund Paulo's legal appeal. He's in prison or the wrongful conviction. Mark believes he's being persecuted for his faith. And so part of what the extra giving that we gave to Mark this year went to help Paulo. In 2021, we budgeted for about $491,000 in expenses, which was higher than most previous years, as we expected to bring several staff on board and ramp activities up to full steam. However, we purposefully went more slowly in the hiring process for those positions to attempt to be more thorough, and COVID continued to make many activities difficult, so we ended up spending considerably less than what was budgeted. You'll see in your packet that we budgeted for $491. We received about $466 in tithes and offerings, but we only spent about $376. The proposed budget for 2022 is very similar to 2021, as we expect our actual spending to increase since as we have hired the majority of staff we intend to hire, and now they will be paid, whereas last year these expenses were in the budget but were not actually spent since the hires weren't made until late in the year. So in 2022, we're budgeting for about $483,000. The only remaining open question regarding personnel is our children's ministry area, which has been led wonderfully by volunteers for months, and which we'll be evaluating if we want to pursue a full or part-time person in that area in the next few months. And I mentioned youth and family as well with Drew graduating, but we did include the funds in the proposed 2022 budget to replace him if we need to. So we can address those areas with the budgeted amounts if we choose to. A few other budget-related notes. The budgeted administration expenses for 2022 remain very similar to last year. No major changes there. Within the building expenses area of the budget, the custodial budget was not fully spent in 2021, but with spending more time in the building in 2022, we do anticipate that going back up to the $8,000 that is projected. A few other small decreases in that category show about a $6,000 decrease in that area from last year. The missions team has elected to add a new mission, the Shiloh Christian Children's Ranch, to our list of missions MCC supports financially. The congregation has made multiple trips to support this mission, and the team decided it was time to add them to the other 8 missions that we support regularly. This was done while keeping the missions budget basically even year over year, as we reduce the discretionary spending budget for the missions team to offset the giving to Shiloh. So we're adding a mission, but we're not actually increasing that budget all that much. The budgets for the youth and family, youth and children's ministry areas are close to flat for 2022 compared to 2021, a slight increase there. So if you add it all together, go through line by line if you'd like to, we're proposing a budget with $8,000 less in expenses in 2022 than in 2021. One thing to remember, that even after our large extra giving to missions last year, and because we underspent our budget so significantly in 2021, we still have about $500,000 in savings. Now, about $141,000 of that amount is in restricted accounts people gave for specific reasons, so it's not just operational money that we can spend on anything, including about $81,000 remaining for the all-in budget. We're going to spend all of that $81,000 finishing the sanctuary and doing the kitchen, plus probably a few tens of $1,000s more. That's a major kitchen renovation. It's going to be very expensive. So we will spend all of that 81 plus some of the rest of our savings money finishing those projects. So while our savings is fairly robust and we're pleased with that, a significant percentage of that money is accounted for. All of that said, God has blessed this church with faithful and generous givers. And given the cushion we have in savings, we feel comfortable proposing a 2022 budget that's about 5% higher than 2021 revenue. So that's where we came out with that. All right, your ballots. If you haven't grabbed a ballot yet, they look like this. Phil, raise your hand if you'd like one. Phil and Dave can pass them out. A note about voting on the ballots. You do need to be a member of Mighty Christian Church who's at least 16 years old in order to vote. Those are the rules in the bylaws. Anybody else can participate in the meeting, of course, but in order to actually vote for the matters on the ballot, you need to be a member at MCC who's at least 16 years old. You have the opportunity to vote for 5 different matters today. Brad Wade and Rick Nystrom are both up to renew their terms as elders, and Bruce Otto and Mark Miller are both up to renew their terms as trustees, and you will also vote on the budget. Each vote is a simple yes or no, with a majority required for approval. After you vote, Phil and Dave, if you just want to if they walk around, you can hand them to Phil and Dave, and we'll collect, or me even, and we'll collect those. We're going to count those. The 3 of us will. Each of us will count them separately, make sure we come up with the same numbers. And we will post a paper on the main door of the church with the results. I assume we'll do that today. If you're interested in knowing the results as soon as we have them, you can check there, or they will be in the bulletin next week. We don't intend on putting them on social media or sharing them in an email. So we'll post them to the door, and the results will be in the bulletin next week. Has that been communicated to you, Shar, that needs to be included in the bulletin next week? Okay, perfect. Okay. That is all the information that I have. I'll be available, as well as Phil and Dave up here at the front. If anyone has questions after, feel free to come see us. Otherwise, please do vote if you're eligible, and get them to me, Dave, or Phil, and we'll go from there. Thank you.